Welcome to Illuminati Silver. We tell you the truth about silver. Today is Monday the 16th of November 2020, and we're looking at how one can invest in silver and whether it's a sensible buy and form of protection against a US dollar collapse. So let's take a look. Now this week we are particularly focusing on silver, as to some extent, though not totally, the last couple of weeks we focused primarily on gold. So yesterday we published episode 1 of Are We Reaching Peak Silver series. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to it, we've placed a link to it in the description box below, as we've also done with episodes 1 to 5 of our Peak Gold series. Now in today's video we're looking at a relatively short article written earlier this year by a site called personalincome.org, which asks the question, how much will silver be worth if the dollar collapses? Now we shall go through this article while at the same time adding our own comments to it. We will say in advance we do not think it really addresses the question with sufficient depth, but it is particularly useful to those who perhaps are new to silver and silver collecting, and also those who are not new to the business, at least to consider some of the implications that a US dollar collapse could have, whether we believe and agree it's around the corner or not. So let's go to that article. Personalincome.org. Article headline: How much will silver be worth if the dollar collapses? 2020 edition. Precious metals include gold, silver and platinum. They're considered safe haven assets, an investment that's expected to hold their value during market turbulence. So today we're going to break down in depth how much will silver be worth if the dollar collapses. Considering silver is considered a safe haven asset, that makes it a good choice for investors during political and economic upheavals because they have intrinsic value, carry no credit risk, and cannot be inflated. Owning just a small percentage of precious metals diversifies your portfolio and therefore reduces volatility and risks. It can also protect your future buying power. To briefly summarize this article, I firmly believe silver is a good investment for the future and something you should own when the dollar collapses. Is silver a good investment for the future? Investing in silver has a few advantages. You can own the physical commodity. It is more liquid than gold, is scarce, and has many practical uses. For example, there is demand for silver in solar panel production, electronics and medical devices. There is even an IRA backed by silver. Because the silver price tends to decrease and become stable during times of economic prosperity and growth, it's not a recommended buy. However, when the market is declining, it's a good investment option because it is expected to hold its value during that rough time, and you can expect a higher ROI afterwards, as seen in Table 1. We shall have a look at that in a moment. Different ways to invest in silver include silver bullion bars. These bars of silver give investors physical ownership of the precious metal. ETFs. The investor owns shares of the fund but is not entitled to access the actual physical commodity. Stocks in companies that mine silver invest in silver indirectly. The potential downside here is that you're also investing in the potential risks of their facilities. Stocks in companies that finance silver mining companies. The companies pay a dividend because as a financial institution they want to increase cash flow. And silver IRA. An IRA that is tax deferred and allows you to hold silver coins and bars in your account. It's similar to your regular IRA, but is funded with physical assets instead of paper assets such as stocks and funds. When will silver hit $30? The last time silver was $30 per ounce was in 2011 and 12, see Table 1, following the 2008 market crash. If you bought silver in 2008, your return doubled in 2 years' time. And as you can see here on the chart, which is Table 1, average price of silver is down here at the bottom, and you can see that in 2011 it went to $35 and to $31 as a price per ounce average, and then of course it fell back, and as we all know, now in 2020 it did hit that $30 once again. Keith Neumeyer, CEO of First Majestic Silver, predicts silver will hit an astounding $130 per ounce in 2020. Keith Neumeyer's predictions and investments in silver rewarded him handsomely after the dot-com bubble busted in the early 2000s. We stop there a second. To be candid with you, most of our listeners know our views on Keith Neumeyer and his outrageous claims. We don't agree with them, and it will take many years, in our view, before we will see $130 an ounce silver. Unless, of course, the dollar does collapse. There's always that predication. Continue. Meanwhile, other investors have more conservative estimates, between $16 and $25 per ounce for 2020. So when will silver hit $30 per ounce? Historically, the Federal Reserve hasn't lowered interest rates down to near zero since 2008. If current stock market trends follow the 2008 crash, it's possible that silver could hit $30 per ounce in the next few years, and the best time to buy would be now. Now, at this time, silver was considerably lower than that when this article was published. But if you do not buy now, it's still a good choice to watch the price of silver this year, and perhaps for the next decades to come. What to own when the dollar collapses? Let's get back to our initial question on how much will silver be worth if the dollar collapses. Zooming out of individual stocks and assets and focusing on a global scale and a longer time horizon, there is another issue: the ability of the US dollar to continue dominating the global market. Let's back up for some historical context first. For almost a century, the US dollar has served as the de facto world currency and is seen as a safe haven asset. This is because the US has proven to be economically and politically stable and has an extremely efficient banking system. It is the largest world economy, accounting for almost 90% of global foreign exchanges, and the US dollar makes up 60% of the central bank foreign exchange reserve, followed by the euro 21% and then the Japanese yen 6%. Most commodities, like metal, energy and agriculture, are globally traded in US dollars. But more recently, opponents have raised concern and voiced their disagreements, claiming that the US has an unfair advantage because its national currency serves as the major global reserve currency. For example, Ned Goodman, Canadian billionaire, predicted in 2013 that the end of the US dollar reigning as the global exchange reserve is near, and the global economy will transition out of the US dollar. And it won't be pretty. Yikes. Additionally, China has been public about the Chinese yuan replacing the US dollar as a leading global currency. China is slowly and steadily working towards this end. In 2015, the yuan officially became a reserve currency, and we can expect more reforms from China in the coming years. The US government's national debt is owned mostly by Japan and China. Of the $22 trillion debt, now that will show you when this article was printed, that the US has, Japan owns $1.27 trillion and China owns $1.09 trillion. If enough investors, including China and Japan, are willing to drop the US dollar, that would definitely lead to a dollar collapse and the end of the US dollar as the strongest global currency. We have to add here, however, a little caveat. If they were to divest themselves in a hurry of that US dollar debt, the price of that debt would plummet, and they themselves would lose exceedingly large sums of money. Whether they'd be willing to do that is another matter, of course. But we cannot forget, it's all very well saying if they dump their debt. But most people are not willing to do that if it's going to cost them economically. Back to the article. To recap, the key factors that lead to a dollar collapse are 1. A strong, viable alternative currency, and 2. Enough investors pulling out of the US dollar. Considering its possibility, what's worth owning during a financial collapse? Will precious metals rise again as the safer way to store the value of money? If so, how much will silver be worth if the dollar collapses? Below, we've listed some investments to consider. In times of economic uncertainty, investors typically flock to safe haven assets. These include gold and silver, mentioned earlier in the article, other foreign exchange currencies, and defensive stocks. We've seen how silver doubled after the 2008 market crash. And if the dollar collapses, Keith Neumeier's predictions of $130 per ounce don't seem too far-fetched. Note that caveat. Another investment to buffer against a declining dollar and protect your future buying power is buying businesses. This supports the American economy and the dollar value. Additionally, Bitcoin could serve a market function similar to that of a safe haven commodity, rather than an equity, due to its inherent scarcity and decentralism. Here's a free Bitcoin investing kit to get started, which you won't be able to sign up to because it's on the screen. Although a gradual decline in the dollar, rather than a dollar collapse, is more likely to happen, which we agree, these investments are still viable. And we recommend watching the change in the value of the dollar and international monetary and trade policies. These changes can affect the value of the dollar and ultimately your returns. So, conclusion. Key takeaways from this article. US dollar declines over time as other countries develop and establish their economic independence and trustworthiness. If enough investors pull out of the US dollar, the system will collapse. During a recession and a declining, collapsing dollar, silver is a great investment due to its liquidity, scarcity, and industrial applications. Historical trends show that investing in silver during a recession paid off well in the years coming out of it. Different ways to invest in silver include silver bullion bars, silver IRAs, and stocks in the mining sector. The truth is, no one knows what will happen in the future with complete certainty. And equally true is the numbers don't lie. So if you're not getting the best returns of your investments, it might be in your interest to reevaluate your strategy and portfolio. We hope you found this article useful. Please share with investors you know who might benefit from reading this. So in a nutshell, what we are witnessing here is an article that, to be candid, is relatively generic and broad. They didn't actually address what price they really thought silver would go to, which is fair enough. Where we agree is on the caveats that they mention, then most certainly not only will silver rise, but so will gold, and so will other commodities, because those commodities priced in US dollars, if the dollar collapses, their prices will go up. But so too will the whole range of other items and goods that you buy, and so the issue that this doesn't really address and that many need to address is what sort of disparity will there be between the rise in silver and the rise in prices generally? Because if they all go up broadly the same, and the differential between the two is the same, then although in physical terms the value has risen, in actual net terms the value is unchanged. And this is why, to a large extent, we have often said and recommended that when buying precious metals, you should really look at it primarily as a hedge against inflation over the longer term. And we have shown in previous videos that gold has proven a better hedge on more occasions than silver. Silver has, on times, outperformed gold, but in terms of frequency of hedging, then gold has performed better. Now, of course, if one is fortunate enough to acquire silver at low enough price, and we go through this bubble, for the want of a better expression, where silver rushes ahead and goes beyond, proportionately, the price of gold, that is then, of course, the time to get out, because all bubbles burst, and the fallback then will give another opportunity for one to acquire silver once again. It's also worth bearing in mind that in various countries, or varying countries, how silver is treated in terms of taxation is very different. In Europe and the UK, for example, VAT, value-added tax, is added to silver, which, as far as we are concerned in the UK, that adds 20% to the buying price. Which means that on the first day that you buy that silver, unless of course you sell it on a site like eBay or something similar, you're losing 20% on day one. And very few sound investments will give you a 20% return quickly. Which is why, once again, we've often said, if you're buying silver, you're doing it for the long term, especially if you're buying the physical. The benefit of ETFs, or if one purchases the various other forms of silver investment where you're not paying the VAT, but you're also not taking delivery of the actual asset itself, so it's essentially a paper exercise, then of course the risk is, if that institution collapses, your investment disappears, whereas if you have the physical, that doesn't happen. But the benefit, you're not paying your 20% premium. And so you can get out of it, if that's your wish, quicker without losing so much money. And if there is a small gain of, say, 10%, you've still made a gain, whereas you'll have made a loss if you buy the physical. Which is why, and I'm repeating myself admittedly and deliberately, when you invest in something like silver, and gold for that matter, but slightly to a lesser extent with gold, you're doing so for the longer term. Anyway, we hope you found that useful. Thank you for listening. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel, and by all means, share your thoughts in the box below the video. And don't forget to press the bell sign so you're notified of our videos as and when they are published. We hope you have found this video interesting and informative, and if so, please give it a thumbs up and share it on social media. Please ensure that you have subscribed to our channel and press the bell sign so that you are notified of any future videos. Also, kindly visit our website at illuminatisilver.com, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe either as a free or paying member for regular email updates and offers. Disclaimer: Illuminati Silver owners come from a background of banking, international wealth management and economics. Having now retired from these worlds, we are not qualified to give investment advice. Therefore, this and other productions must not be deemed to be giving such advice and merely represent the personal views of its owners.